Welcome to the Reality of Herbal Therapy podcast. So today we wanted to kind of go back into our series on the systems of the body. If you remember, the systems of the body are different parts of our bodies and they have different functions and different things. And when you're thinking of herbal therapy, what you're wanting to do is take whatever system is being affected and bring it back to optimal health. And so today we want to talk about the skeletal system. So the skeletal system comprises our bones, our joints, our cartilage, any connective tissue, anything like that. That's the skeletal system. Basically, it's the framework and the foundation of our body. So it's like the center. It's like what holds us up, what helps us move. So it has a lot to do with mobility, posture, strength, immunity, digestion. Sometimes, when we talk about the skeletal system, we don't even think about the other things that it does. A lot of the systems in our body cross over and they help in other systems and they have other things, but we're wanting to kind of talk about the skeletal system. So it's basically our 206 bones, the joints, cartilage, connective tissue. So the skeletal system protects the really vital organs. Our ribs protect our heart and our lungs. Our spine protects the spinal cord. Basically, anything that's really, really essential, the bones protect it. But it's also a place in our body that stores minerals, especially calcium and phosphorus. We quite often talk about those, but we're going to touch on another really, really important mineral that quite often gets ignored. And the skeletal system also produces blood cells in our bone marrow, so the blood cells also is the production where T cells are produced, which helps with our immunity. And it also provides structure for our body and allows for movement, the joints and the things that keep them helps our body to move. So what are some ways we can keep the skeletal system healthy? So, I touched on minerals, calcium, magnesium, phosphorus. Those are all essential for bone health. Those are what makes our bones dense and strong. But there are also quite often we hear about vitamin D, vitamin K. Those help with the absorption of calcium and help they're kind of like the movers of calcium. So vitamin D and vitamin K are really essential to helping calcium move. So getting out in sunlight will help with the vitamin D. Your dark leafy green vegetables, which Dr. James always talked about, those are great sources of vitamin D, vitamin K that are really, really helpful. And then proteins. The amino acids, the proteins, those are the essential building blocks for our bones. So those are really essential. So having a diet that is good in calcium and phosphorus, magnesium, vitamin D, vitamin K, and wouldn't you know it, they all come from dark green leafy vegetables. Like Dr. James always said, if your plate isn't half vegetables, you're not eating right. And I'm one to getting enough vegetables down sometimes is not easy, but that is how you keep your skeletal system healthy. So another way to keep the skeletal system healthy are weight-bearing exercises that put weight on the body. So resistant bands, walking is really, really important to keeping the skeletal system healthy and functioning properly. And then you also want to keep the joints and the connection between the joints. So you have ligaments that connect the bones to the muscles. If those are not healthy, then your mobility is not as good as it should be. So stretching and keeping your mobility going. Chiropractic is amazing, especially for keeping the bones aligned and where they're supposed to be. So there's chiropractic, but there's also manual therapy. Both of those and massage therapy are really wonderful to keeping the bones where they're supposed to be, keeping them in alignment. And when things are out of alignment, that's when you can come up with pain in certain places, uneven bones, all sorts of things. So keeping everything aligned is really, really important. There are some things that are really damaging to our bones and to our skeletal system. Soda is a major one. Basically, sodas leach our body of minerals. It kills out our ability. It ruins our ability to absorb minerals, but it also leaches it out of the bones. So you'll get brittle bones. And so, like heavy soda drinkers, a lot of them have brittle bones, and their joints and things are really have a lot of issues. A lot of processed foods, too much processed white flour, white sugar. Those are really, really hard on the bones. Again, they leach minerals out of the bones, and so you're making your bones to where they're not as strong and healthy as they should be. Smoking and alcohol. Dr. James was really big on avoiding smoking and alcohol because both of those, again, you're leaching those essential minerals from the bones to make it so they're not as healthy or strong, or your bones don't have that proper lattice that makes them strong. So our bones are like fibers. It's not one big solid piece. It's fibers that overlay each other. And smoking and alcohol and processed foods, sodas, they all make that lattice, those fibers, to where they don't overlap as much and don't connect as much, so the bones break easier. And of course, water, you can never remind people enough, water is really, really essential to healthy bones. And then good sleep. It's amazing what sleep does for our bones. I didn't realize how much it was until Lynn shared a book about sleep. And the author of the book was really into cross-country track, running sports. And so in his early 20s in college, he was running, and his hip just completely disintegrated underneath him. And it basically came from a lack of sleep, that his bones weren't as healthy as they should be. So sleep is very, very much essential to healthy bones. So Dr. James always suggested taking the PM minerals in the evening, or take your minerals in the evening before bed, because that's when, while we're asleep, that's when our body uses the minerals and rebuilds and strengthens whatever we need. So if you don't have a good store of minerals when you go to bed, or if you're not sleeping, your body can't take that time to help you heal, to help make your bones strong. So sleep is essential to a good, healthy skeletal system. So let's talk about some herbs that can help strengthen, nourish, and restore that skeletal system. So I touched on the PM minerals. Minerals are essential. So we've talked about calcium, magnesium, potassium, phosphorus. Those are the minerals that are essential for healthy bones. They help make that lattice. They help the body's the body build bones that are strong and resilient. So like the guy that basically his hip just shattered in a million pieces just from running. He didn't have that good strong lattice in his bones. And so there's the minerals in PM minerals, but there's also the colloidal minerals, which basically colloidal minerals are small, already pre-digested, if you will, minerals that can be absorbed easily by the body. So they pass through cell walls and the cells can use them easily. So that's why we really like the PM minerals for what it does for having a good, healthy skeletal system. So another formula that we always go to with any joint issue is arthrite. So connective tissue or joints, is arthrite helps to make those healthy. that part of the skeletal system healthy. So arthrite, there's a fluid in between our joints, so our joints are wrapped in fluid. It's like, so that fluid is like oil for our joints. It's a lubricant that makes it so our joints can move easily. Arthritis is basically several different simplified form of it is that that fluid is full of either dirt or impurities, and so you get rubbing and grinding. Another type of arthritis is basically you wear down that joint so much that you've gotten rid of that lubricating oil, that lubrication, and so they can't move. You know, if you hear a lot of people, they'll talk about they have knee issues with bone on bone and the excruciating pain that it causes because there's no more of that lubrication. So arthrite helps strengthens that sac around that lubrication, but it also helps your body to have what it needs to fill that sac with good, healthy lubrication so that the joints can move easily. It also helps, like inflammation is basically where it's inflamed around it, so it's putting pressure on the joints. Arthrite will help to relieve that inflammation. And you know, you don't have to be thinking that arthrite is just for arthritis, like to where you get to the point where it's like, okay, I've been diagnosed with arthritis. Arthrite helps when joints are stiff. When I was much younger, I wrecked on my bicycle, and the tire landed on on one of my knees. So both of my knees are always kind of sore, but if I take arthrite and remember to take it consistently, it doesn't hurt. And sometimes I'll forget, and my knees will start to like really hurt. They'll be stiff. They'll be achy. And if I just take arthrite, a larger dose for a couple of days, then that achy goes away. And it's not like I need arthrite every single day. Basically, I'm at the point right now where like one arthrite a week keeps my joints feeling so they're not stiff, they're not achy and everything like that. You know, there's a lot of people around me have had knee replacement surgery, and some people it has been the most wonderful thing, and some people it goes horribly wrong. And when it goes horribly wrong, it's pretty bad. And the other day I was talking with Lynn about somebody that had it and it had gone horribly wrong and all of the issues that they were having. And because I've always struggled with knee issues, she was like, make sure you never forget your arthrite so that you never need to get your knees replaced. So arthrite is amazing for anything like that. So another formula, which is extremely popular because of it helps rebuild following an injury, a broken bone, a strain, pulled muscle, pulled ligaments, pulled tendons, anything like that, is tissue mend. Tissue mend really helps with the connective tissue, but it also helps with rebuilding bones. You know, our bodies are amazing that when we break a bone, it can actually go in and rebuild that bone. You know, and so Dr. James had always talked about how tissue mend will cut the healing time almost in half. You know, it depends on the person and all sorts of other things, but tissue mend will drastically reduce the amount of time until you're healed. We have people come in all the time that, you know, so we had somebody come in just the other day. She had broken her wrist and she was taking tissue mend, and they told her it would be 8 weeks before she could use it. And it had been 3 weeks and it was almost completely healed. You know, and these are common things that we hear all the time. Tissue mend rebuilds it really fast. There was a man that came in, his grandfather-in-law had broken his back and had broken one of the vertebrae in his spine. And basically he couldn't walk. The pain was just too much. So he had gone into Evergreen to get some CBD for his grandfather-in-law so that he could at least cope with the pain. Basically, the grandfather lives in Mexico, and they said, well, because of his age and everything else, there's nothing we can do. Just, you know, make him comfortable. And he couldn't walk because of the pain and everything. And at Evergreen, Jim there at Evergreen, gave him some tissue mend, and he sent it for his grandfather-in-law. And he told me, I didn't think it was going to change much, but within 3 days, the grandfather-in-law was up and walking around, and they saw what an amazing change it made for them. So tissue mend is one of those miracle herbs that we have, because basically whenever you have a broken bone or something, it really limits your ability to be active, your ability to live life to the fullest, and tissue mend gives that back really quick. And so there's a lot of people that love tissue mend for that simple fact that it gives them back their life. We've had people that have, and it doesn't even have to be a broken bone, people that have sprains or something like that, like where there's a lot of pain, like a sprained ankle. Basically the doctors they'll give you pain medicine and tell you to stay off of it until those joints can heal. Tissue mend will help it heal much, much faster. But sometimes when you have a sprain, it's achy and painful. Tissue mend will take away that pain so that the body can heal. Another couple formulas that I wanted to touch on that help with the skeletal system that aren't necessarily totally the skeletal system. One is anemia. So anemia will help strengthen the bone marrow so that you get better blood out of your bone marrow. So you get better white blood cells and red blood cells and the T cells and everything that the blood needs, that it pulls out of the production factory that is our bone marrow. So anemia is really, really helpful if you've got any bone marrow issues or your blood is not being made totally, whatever the issue is. Anemia will help your body to make good blood, usable blood, stuff like that. So like I mentioned, the T cells and the white blood cells that are made in the bone marrow. So that is our immune system. Infection is amazing for that. If you're basically not producing enough white blood cells to fight off infection or to fight off any viruses or anything like that, it helps that bone marrow get healthy so that it can be a better factory for creating those blood cells that you need. So we wanted to talk about that unsung hero of bone health. That unsung hero of bone health and tissue strength is silica. So we have our silica DE. Somebody came in the other day and asked, why do we put diatomaceous earth in every single one of the formulas? And the whole reason Dr. James wanted to do that is because of what silica does. So silica, it only takes a little bit of silica. It's not a ton that we need for the health of our bodies. But if you have a good store of it, basically silica is what makes our body able to utilize calcium, to put calcium where it's supposed to be, and magnesium and phosphorus and stuff. Silica is essential in our bodies making collagen. And collagen is what gives bones flexibility, but it also gives it strength. So our joints, the skin, any connective tissue, silica makes it so that it's strong but flexible. And that's what makes silica such an important part of keeping the skeletal system healthy and strong and vibrant is silica. So a good way to think about silica is it is the construction manager for our body. So it tells calcium, magnesium where to go, where it's needed, what it can help with. Otherwise, it'll just end up wherever it lands, basically. Silica is the transport mechanism. So it doesn't take a lot. It will transport a whole lot of calcium to the bones or wherever it's needed, or to the joints or whatever. Another great thing about silica is that it helps prevent brittle bones or spiky or uneven. So like I talked about how our bones are kind of a lattice, like a mesh, and silica makes that mesh strong but smooth. So, if you ever heard of bone spurs, basically, when we're walking on our heels, there's always a chance for damage, whether we stepped on a Lego at 3 a.m. or, just stepped wrong and we kind of damaged that heel a little bit, then it gets remade. But if you don't have a good store of silica, then you get those bone spurs where it's the lattice and that mesh is basically poking out. It's not strong and it's soft, but it's also very pokey, and it like sticks into the foot from the inside. So anytime you step on it, it's extremely painful. And silica really helps with that, having the strong but smooth bones. So if you've got bone spurs, silica will smooth them out and make it really help with it. And it's amazing how little it takes to take care of bone spurs or anything like that. Silica is amazing for hair, skin, and nails. And, I forgot to mention that is, Dr. James always said that was the side effect of tissue mend, is that you'll end up with stronger, thicker nails that grow faster and stronger and thicker hair that grows faster. I actually had a lady come in that she was like taking tissue mend, and I can't remember what it was for, but she had to quit taking it because her hair was just growing too fast. She said it was costing her too much at the beautician to be taking tissue mend, which was really funny because some women would die for long, gorgeous, beautiful hair. It also helps with your skin and your complexion. We had a customer from Japan, and she would use a ton of tissue mend because she loved how it made her skin soft and supple. And so tissue mend and silica, those two together, really help with beautiful skin. So, check out these herbal formulas, and because, having a strong core central system, the skeletal system, is amazing for your overall health and the foundation of your body. And that's what that skeletal system is. There are the other episodes on the other systems of the body that I encourage you to check out. It was been wonderful talking to you, and we will talk to you next time. It is not the intent of professional herbal instruction or any persons associated therewith to diagnose or prescribe. The intent is only to offer herbal information for your consideration. In the event you use this information without your doctor's approval, you are prescribing for yourself, which is your God-given right. But professional herbal instruction or any persons associated herewith assume no responsibility. The claims and statements made on this podcast have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.